The Ferrari was never supposed to stop there. It had glided through the winding countryside roads like a living thing, its engine humming with disciplined power, its red paint catching the late afternoon sun as if it were born for admiration. Elena Rossi had driven faster than usual, not recklessly, but decisively, because her mind was crowded with board meetings, investor calls, and a future that demanded her constant attention. She had trusted the navigation system when it suggested the shortcut, even though the road had narrowed, the asphalt thinning into cracked gray lines edged by tall grass and wooden fences leaning with age. Then, without warning, the engine stuttered. At first it was subtle, a hesitation, a vibration beneath her hands. Elena frowned, easing her foot off the accelerator. A second later, warning lights bloomed across the dashboard like red accusations, and before she could curse or react, the Ferrari rolled to a quiet, humiliating stop on the side of the road. Silence followed. Not the artificial silence of executive offices or luxury penthouses, but a wide, breathing stillness filled with insects, wind, and distant birdsong. Elena sat frozen for several seconds, her manicured fingers gripping the steering wheel as if disbelief alone might restart the car. When nothing happened, she exhaled sharply and stepped out, heels sinking into loose gravel that had no respect for Italian leather. She lifted the hood with controlled irritation, staring down at an engine she personally understood better than most people alive, not because she could repair it, but because she had helped design the company that revolutionized hybrid performance systems worldwide. Her name was on patents. Her face on magazine covers. Elena Rossi did not get stranded. Yet here she was. No signal on her phone. No houses in immediate sight. No passing cars. The late sun painted the fields gold, mocking her with its calm beauty. She shut the hood harder than necessary and leaned against the Ferrari, crossing her arms as she forced herself to breathe. She had built her life on control. On precision. On certainty. This, being alone on a nameless road, felt like a crack in reality she didn't appreciate. That was when she heard it. A small voice. Soft. Curious. Unafraid. "Mister, is your car sleeping?" Elena turned so quickly her hair whipped across her shoulder. A little girl stood several feet away, watching her with open fascination. She couldn't have been more than 6 or 7 years old. Her clothes were simple and worn in the honest way of children who played outside without worrying about stains. Brown curls framed her face in uneven pigtails, and her knees were smudged with dirt. In one hand, she held a bright red plastic watering can, water dripping rhythmically onto the ground. Elena blinked, momentarily disoriented by the contrast between her reality and this unexpected interruption. What? The girl pointed at the Ferrari. "It's very quiet. Cars are supposed to make noise." Elena's lips parted, then curved slightly despite herself. "Yes," she said. "I suppose they are." The child took a cautious step closer, examining the car as if it were an injured animal. "Is it broken?" "Yes," Elena admitted. "It seems to be." The girl nodded solemnly, absorbing this information like a serious responsibility. Then she looked up again, her dark eyes shining with sudden confidence. "That's okay." Elena raised an eyebrow. "Is it?" The girl leaned in, lowering her voice to a whisper as if sharing the most important secret in the world. "My dad can fix it." The certainty in her tone hit Elena harder than it should have. "I see," Elena said gently. "Is your father nearby?" The girl pointed toward a farmhouse set back from the road, partially hidden behind tall oak trees and a crooked wooden fence. A barn stood beside it, weathered but sturdy, with its doors open. "We live there," she said proudly. "Daddy fixes lots of things." Before Elena could protest, the girl turned and ran, her small shoes kicking up dust as she shouted over her shoulder, "Don't go. I'll get him." Elena watched her disappear down the path, a strange tightness settling in her chest. She could have stopped her. Should have, perhaps. The rational part of her brain insisted that a rural mechanic, if that was even what the man was, couldn't possibly diagnose a Ferrari engineered with proprietary systems and coded software. Roadside assistance would arrive eventually. Money always solved these problems. But something about the girl's confidence kept Elena rooted to the spot. Minutes passed. The breeze carried the smell of earth and grass. The Ferrari's engine ticked softly as it cooled, like a heart reluctantly slowing. Elena found herself noticing things she usually ignored: the texture of bark on the trees, the way sunlight filtered through leaves, the distant sound of laughter echoing faintly from the farmhouse. Footsteps approached. He appeared beside the road with quiet presence, wiping his hands on a cloth tucked into his back pocket. He was tall, broad-shouldered, dressed simply in a faded gray t-shirt and work-worn jeans. His boots were scuffed and dusty, and his hands bore the permanent marks of manual labor, scratches, grease stains, scars earned honestly over time. "This yours?" he asked, nodding toward the Ferrari. "Yes," Elena replied, straightening instinctively. "My daughter said it stopped working." His voice was calm, steady, without judgment. "I'm Matteo." "Elena," she said. She hesitated, then added, "I don't want to impose. I already called for help." Matteo smiled faintly. "No trouble. I can at least take a look." The little girl reappeared behind him, grinning triumphantly. "See, I told you." Matteo opened the hood carefully, not with the arrogance of someone eager to prove himself, but with respect. He studied the engine in silence, listening, observing, touching nothing at first. Elena watched his expression change, not confusion, but understanding. He murmured. Her pulse quickened despite her skepticism. He checked a few connections, leaned closer, then reached into his pocket and pulled out a small wrench. With a few practiced movements, he tightened a loose terminal. "Try now," he said. Elena slid into the driver's seat, suddenly aware of how quiet her breathing was. She pressed the ignition. The Ferrari roared back to life. The sound burst across the fields like a victory cry. The girl clapped her hands. "Daddy fixed it." Elena stepped out slowly, something warm and unfamiliar blooming in her chest. She looked at Matteo, not at his clothes or his hands, but at the quiet competence in his eyes. "Thank you," she said softly. "I didn't think it would be that simple." Matteo shrugged. "Most things are. People just forget how to listen." Elena reached for her wallet, but he gently shook his head. "No need." Their eyes met, and for the first time in years, Elena felt something shift, something unplanned, unmeasured, and impossible to buy. As she prepared to leave, the little girl tugged gently at her sleeve and whispered once more, smiling with absolute faith. "Told you my dad could fix it." Elena smiled back, knowing, somehow, that this breakdown was not an accident. It was a beginning.